The esoteric secrets of King Solomon. Some names echo across centuries. Others remain like incantations. Solomon is both. You might search for him in the pages of Scripture, the pillars of the temple, or among the lineage of ancient monarchs. But you'll never truly grasp Solomon if you remain only on the surface. Because Solomon does not reside where linear history exists. He breathes in the intersection of myth and mystery, in that delicate space where belief turns into cipher, and language becomes the instrument of will. Solomon was no ordinary sovereign. He was the master of the unseen, someone who held the ineffable name of God in his grasp, who bound entities through utterance, and raised a temple not to contain, but to bridge realms. This is not the Solomon taught in children's books. This is the Solomon whispered among mystics, referenced by rabbis under candlelight in hidden libraries. The Solomon revered by Sufi mystics as a ruler of jinn, mentioned in Arabic lore as the one who spoke to winds and sealed spirits within rings. This is the Solomon found in Hermetic grimoires and the shadows of Hebrew alchemy, a sage who turned geometry into incantation and words into weapons. In this video, we won't focus on historical records. We'll explore what is concealed in the gaps between lines, what is hinted, never plainly told. We'll uncover the esoteric king who raised a temple not merely for divine adoration, but for the passage between dimensions. Prepare to step through invisible thresholds into a world unlike your own. The temple and the labyrinth, architecture as alchemy. They say the divine shaped the cosmos with letters of flame, but when Solomon built his temple, he did something even more daring. He translated those flames into stone. The Temple of Solomon wasn't just an architectural marvel. It was a cosmic cipher, a multi-dimensional mechanism, a ritual artifact embedded in structure. To most, it appears a cultural monument, a jewel of Hebrew spirituality. But the initiated, the true seekers, recognize the temple as a reflection of the universe, a tool of ritual and revelation, not just a house for prayer, but a dwelling for the unspeakable. Kabbalistic teachings state that the world was created using the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. This is no figure of speech. To the mystic, each letter carries a frequency, a numeric value, a geometrical identity, and a spiritual force. They are the atoms of existence, the vibration of form. When Solomon began construction, he wasn't working with mere measurements. He was scripting the sacred into substance. He was writing code into creation. The Sefer Yetzirah, or Book of Formation, attributed by some to Abraham, by others to the philosophical lineage Solomon inherited, explains how the letters are used to seal the cosmos in 4 directions. Thus, the temple acts as a seal, a geometrical invocation rather than a symbolic shrine. At the core was the Holy of Holies, the Kodesh HaKodeshim, a perfect cube, 20 cubits in every dimension. To the modern mind, this may appear an architectural triviality. To the adept, it is language in structure. The cube is a symbol of earth balanced, the solid platform where spirit descends. It is the embodiment of order, of material mastery, and the form of the perfected stone, a symbol known throughout Hermeticism as the conquered self. Gershom Scholem, perhaps the greatest modern scholar of Kabbalah, believed the temple was a blueprint of the tree of life. Every hall, every veil, every sacred vessel corresponded to a sephira, a divine emanation. Entering the temple wasn't just walking into sacred space, it was ascending the cosmic axis, a journey through the ladder of creation, from Malkuth to Keter, from earth to crown. And this vision isn't limited to the Jewish world. Ancient Egyptians saw temples as crystallized divinity. In India, mandalas are navigable maps of the universe. In medieval France, cathedral stained glass windows encoded geometrical formulas known only to the master architects. In all these traditions, architecture is magic, and the builder is a mage. And like every sacred constructor, Solomon didn't build alone. According to the Book of Kings, he was assisted by a mysterious but significant figure, Hiram Abish, a master craftsman from Tyre. To the Kabbalists, Hiram was an initiated smith, a sage of fire and metal. Outwardly, he forged the sacred implements. Symbolically, he represents the fusion of ancient wisdoms, pagan craftsmanship merged with Hebrew illumination, a unity of traditions that modernity has artificially separated. But a question has haunted seekers and scholars alike since the Middle Ages. Who gave Solomon the design for the temple? The biblical texts say God revealed them. But apocryphal and mystical writings offer another story. The Testament of Solomon, a manuscript dating from the 2nd or 3rd century CE, claims that Solomon acquired the secrets of the temple from entities of the underworld, not celestial angels, but from spirits below. One of these is Asmodeus, a spirit also found in Persian mythology. In the text, Solomon binds Asmodeus with a ring gifted by a divine messenger. With it, he commands beings unseen by ordinary eyes, spirits who lay the temple stone by stone. This narrative disturbs dogma but fascinates the initiated, for it reveals the true path of alchemy. Light emerges not from denial of shadow, but from its transformation. Solomon did not banish the dark. He subjugated it, brought it under the governance of sacred word, and transformed chaos into form. The word used not to describe, but to shape. In mystical teachings, the Logos is not simply divine speech, it is divine being. It's what echoes at the center of every sacred book, every mantra, every incantation. It is vibration before sound, meaning before language. When Solomon sought wisdom, he was asking not to manipulate knowledge, but to merge with it. To see not just what the world is, but what it is becoming. And this is what makes Solomon's story different from that of ordinary kings. His wisdom wasn't inherited, it was unveiled. Through dreams, riddles, through sacred dialogues with the divine and the demonic alike. He spoke with queens and craftsmen, angels and adversaries. He sat at the boundary where clarity meets chaos, and he listened. This dual nature of Solomon, the sovereign and the sage, the ruler and the mystic, is what has kept his name alive in so many cultures. In Christianity, he is the wise son of David. In Judaism, he is the builder of the sacred house. In Islam, he is the prophet who commands the unseen. But in the hidden traditions, in the teachings passed from hand to hand, whisper to whisper, Solomon is something even more profound. He is the human who dared to speak the name, to speak the real name. Not the name passed down in ritual, but the one embedded in the architecture of stars, etched into the curves of geometry, and pulsing behind the eyes of every living being. And so the story of Solomon is not a tale locked in the past. It is an initiation, a calling. It asks, what is the temple you are building within yourself? What demons have you sealed? Which spirits have you questioned, not condemned? Every symbol in Solomon's story, the ring, the seal, the cube, the name, is also a mirror. It reflects not just ancient wisdom, but the map of your own becoming. Because the real temple wasn't built in stone, it wasn't destroyed by Babylon. It is here, in the silence behind your thoughts, in the geometry of your breath, in the word you have yet to speak. And when you find that word, the one buried not in dictionaries but in dreams, it won't just describe your reality, it will create it. Because Solomon's true magic wasn't in controlling spirits. It was in understanding that all forces, seen and unseen, respond to resonance, the resonance of thought aligned with truth, the vibration of intention stripped of illusion. That's what the ring represented, not dominance but attunement, not coercion but coherence. He didn't bind demons to punish them. He bound them to understand them. To name is not to chain, it is to integrate. The builder of the temple was also the architect of the self. And every stone he laid in that sacred structure was a layer of inner alignment. This is why the temple mattered so deeply. It wasn't just a house for the divine, it was a diagram of divine order. Every measurement, every chamber, every veil, it was all encoded with purpose. It reflected the macrocosm within the microcosm. Heaven mirrored in wood and gold, in silence and song. And yet, what was built outside had to fall. It had to be lost, shattered, scattered, so that the secret could return to where it always belonged, not in monuments of stone, but in the quiet places of the soul. That's why the legends linger, why the ring is still searched for, why the seal appears in mystic texts, in talismans, in the architecture of both cathedrals and quantum theory. Because Solomon's story isn't just a historical curiosity, it's a blueprint, a cipher, a living myth that reactivates something dormant in us, some ancient memory that wisdom isn't found, it's remembered. And when you remember it, truly remember, it doesn't come as thunder. It arrives like a whisper you've heard all your life, but never quite turned toward. It's familiar because it was never foreign. It's yours because it always was. This is the hidden current beneath Solomon's story. Not a tale of conquest, but of reconciliation. Between the higher and the lower, the mind and the heart, the seen and the unseen. He didn't command demons because he was fearless. He did it because he no longer exiled the shadow. He faced it, named it, integrated it. That's what the seal truly is. Not just a geometric symbol, but an eternal equation. Two triangles, one ascending, one descending, spirit into matter, matter into spirit. The alchemy of return, that which is above becoming that which is below, not in dominance but in dialogue. And what of the ring? If you find it, it won't be on your finger. It will be in the moment you stop seeking externally and realize the architecture of power was never in the tool, it was in the wielder. The ring was a mirror, a test, a question. Are you aligned enough to wield what you already are? Because nothing is more dangerous than ungrounded wisdom. And nothing is more liberating than truth remembered from within. So dig deeper, not into history, but into silence. Not for treasure, but for resonance. The real temple isn't hidden under sand, it's under layers of forgetting. And the moment you feel the click, the recognition, it won't be dramatic, it will be inevitable. As if it had been waiting for you. Because it has. And so the path doesn't unfold before you, it reveals itself within you. At first it's subtle, a feeling beneath thought, a pull with no direction, like a memory from a dream you've never had, but somehow miss with your whole being. You might call it intuition, you might call it grace, but it's neither, it's remembrance. This is what Solomon knew. The spirits he commanded weren't beasts of chaos. They were metaphors, symbols, fragments of self unacknowledged. They responded to him, not because he controlled them, but because he recognized them. He gave name to what others feared. He gave place to what others denied. And that is the true binding. Not chains, but understanding. Not coercion, but coherence. So many seek the key. So few realize the key was never lost. It was buried in plain sight, beneath layers of fear, pride, projection. You cannot force open this lock, you shed your way into it. Layer by layer, assumption by assumption, until all that's left is clarity. Pure, undeniable, uncompromising. And when you arrive, not at a destination but at the center, you don't find answers. You become them. You speak, and the words are not yours but truth using your voice. You move and the movement is not yours but flow aligning through form. You are not empty. You are transparent. The light moves through you. That is the kingdom. That is the seal. That is the throne that cannot be taken because it was never placed. It was realized. It was you. And so when the veil lifts, not with a trumpet, not with a storm, but in a stillness so profound it silences all else, you do not celebrate. You remember. A smile may touch your lips or tears your eyes, but the feeling is not triumph. It is recognition. You were never far. You were never broken. You were never separate. The rituals, the sigils, the texts, they are not roads but mirrors. Not maps but melodies, to help you recall a song your soul already knows. You hum it as a child, forget it in your striving and rediscover it in surrender. And the song is not yours alone. It is sung in the breath of trees, in the hush between waves, in the silence between heartbeats. The angels don't speak in thunder. They speak in alignment. They gather where truth is honored, not proclaimed. And truth, raw, untamed, unsellable, is rarely comfortable. It doesn't cater, it doesn't flatter, it undoes. It peels away the layers you called you until you stand naked in the presence of the real. That is the altar. That is the offering. Not your words, not your deeds, you, everything you are, everything you are not. Laid bare, not as sacrifice, but as homecoming. And when you meet the divine, not as a figure but as a field, you see that it never demanded worship. Only remembrance, never obedience, only integration, never separation, only truth lived so fully, no part is left behind. And that, finally, is where the path ends. It doesn't. It becomes you. You walk the world the same as before, feet on the earth, breath in your lungs, but everything is different. Not because the sky has opened or miracles parade before your eyes, but because the illusion has cracked. The illusion of distance, the illusion of waiting, the illusion that God was ever somewhere else. You see now, every face is a facet, every moment a window. The sacred was never hidden, only overlooked. It was in the mundane, shimmering quietly beneath the noise. The cup in your hand, the stranger's glance, the ache in your chest, each is a scripture. Not written in words but in being. You no longer seek signs, everything is a sign. You no longer hunger for purpose. Your very presence is purpose. The longing dissolves, not because it is fulfilled, but because you realize it was never pointing outward. It was always your own soul calling you home, disguised as desire. So you live, not as someone chasing light, but as light made flesh. You forgive, not because you are told to, but because resentment is too heavy for one who remembers. You love, not as an act of will, but as a fact of existence. And when pain comes, and it will, you do not run. You bow, you feel. You learn its shape, its lesson, its gift. Even sorrow becomes holy. Nothing is wasted. You stop needing certainty. You stop fearing silence. You stop pretending. You become a quiet revolution. Thank you for listening.